Hi everyone, welcome to the fourth episode of our Talking, Teaching and Tech. I'm Fiona.
And hi everyone, I'm Greg. So we've been talking, we've started chatting about universal design for learning, and we've just been unpacking it and kind of figuring out the elements. And last week we did talk about universal design for learning and the piece of engagement, multiple ways that we engage our kids. But this week we thought, and for the next couple of weeks, we thought we'd talk about multiple means of representation. The second part of the UDL framework. How do we provide for our students multiple ways they can access their learning content, multiple ways they can actually access what they have to get on with and learn? And so this week we thought we'd talk a bit about that. In particular, we thought we'd talk about PDFs, because it's like, Fiona, like one of the most common formats that we give digital content to kids is in the PDF format.
Yeah.
And I don't think all PDFs were created equal. And I definitely don't think giving a student something in a PDF is automatically you can presume they're going to get access to the learning content, because PDFs are a funny thing, are they not?
They are indeed. And it's, as you know, one of my favorite things to talk about, which I'm not sure what that says about me really, but it is. And so I guess one of the things that we know is there's three different types of PDFs. So we've got PDFs that we created properly, they've got tags, they've been formatted correctly, all of those sorts of things. And not a lot of teachers have time to do that, do they, Greg?
No, or even know that this is the case. I mean, who knew that there were three different types of PDFs?
Yeah, I know. And the other thing, of course, is that we've got that classic way that I think most people share PDFs at school, which is, right, I've got this piece of paper or I've photocopied something that I want to use. I'm going to zip it into the school photocopier and I'm going to digitally send it off via email to myself or to my students or whatever it may be. I know when I was at school, that was the main way that we would share stuff. Same for you?
Well, when I was at school, we didn't have PDFs because we didn't have computers, but I'm not going to go that far back to my school. But yeah, exactly. Like the PDF is like, it's literally just a handout, if you like, with a glass screen in front of it. Like it's no more than, yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that people don't really know about PDFs, is that what they're actually sending is something that we can't actually highlight. We can't pick up any of the text on there, because when we've sent it from the school photocopier, we're actually just sending, as you said, a piece of text with like a glass screen over the top of it. So what we want to be able to do is we want to make sure that that text we can actually pick that text up, because that's the way that the students are going to be able to, if they want to have that text read aloud, if they want to get the dictionary meanings of the words and all of those different sorts of things we can do with the toolbar.
Make sure we give the students the right PDF version format, or we actually want to be able to, if we have one of these image-based PDFs, how do we make it into an accessible PDF? And really, there's a lot to unpack here, isn't there? There's a lot to actually talk about.
Look, there is, and I guess the thing for me is that we've got ways that we can do that with the Read and Write toolbar. And if you're interested in finding out more about that, maybe that's something that we can do for another session.
Yeah,
but what we wanted to show everybody was how the Read and Write toolbar actually works, and how within a PDF, because we want to be able to show people the way that they can get more information, decode the text, pick up on those dictionary meanings, offer different ways to access it all. And that's really what the representation is all about.
Yep, exactly. So while you're going to show us the PDF reader for Read and Write, but while you're doing that, because I mean, even people using PDFs, so they might provide students with a PDF document that's actually an assessment task, where they've actually got to read the read the question and answer it. And sometimes kids literally have to print it out and then do it by hand as a pen and paper exercise. So if we're giving a PDF, how can we give it so that there's multiple ways that students can actually access the content? And what we can do is use Texthelp's PDF Reader. Now, before you show this, Fiona, the thing about this is that people don't realize that everybody with a read and write subscription has access to this PDF reader, and lots of folks don't even know that that's the case, do they?
No, and I've just kind of put my cursor on that little icon up there. So I've actually got my puzzle piece for read and write for Google Chrome, but I've also got the Texthelp PDF Reader. And if you've got access to read and write for Google Chrome and you're not using the Texthelp PDF Reader, gosh, you are missing out.
Missing out. Yep.
Absolutely. So you got to make sure that when you go to the Google Chrome store, you download both of those. And then that way you can get your PDFs to open up as with the Texthelp PDF Reader as its default, as it's done just here, and make them so that students can use all of those tools that you can see across the top of the toolbar there. And then you've still got all of your normal PDF tools down the bottom here. So there's no problem about, increasing the size or downloading and printing and having the thumbnails, all of that sort of stuff still there as well. And then over here, you've got our integration with Google Classroom. So if you're a Google Classroom person, you can, instantly, with a click of a button, pop this in as a assignment or a material into Google Classroom as well. So it really gives you this little one-stop shop. And then it gives students the ability to do all sorts of things as well, which is what we really want to talk about. So I guess the first place to start is reading, Greg, do you think?
Yeah. So, yep.
And so what we can do is we've got two ways. We've got click to speak, which is specific for the PDF reader. And I click on click to speak and literally click and it will start reading for me.
Pour a small amount of water into the round container so the water is about 1 centimetre deep.
And I guess that right there you can see one of the great ways that we provide a different type of representation by having that sentence color-coded with one color and the word with another. So that gives students that opportunity to look at both the sentence and the individual words as they're being read aloud. But what if I'm not sure what some of these words are, mean, or if I need a different translation into another language? I've got the opportunity to use my dictionary, my picture dictionary. I can translate it, and I think my translation language is Spanish at the moment. And so I've got the ability to get all of this information about the text that I'm reading in here as well.
Fiona, so it's actually, and people might be used to an older version of the PDF reader that we used to have, but now it's actually almost like a mirror of the read and write toolbar. It's a separate toolbar because it's embedded in the PDF, but it's actually the same features, the same tools there, which is great because it means that students, there's a consistency across wherever they are. They're using the same tools, but for different platforms, which is fantastic.
Absolutely. And I mean, some of those features that we really like the vocab list. So as the teacher, I can go along and make my vocab list, or if I'm a student and I want to go ahead and make a vocab list for myself, I can do that. I've got the ability to gather up the information with all the highlights. I can color my screen if that's something that I want to do. So I've got all of those things to be able to do, and really makes it so much easier to complete a task like this. So let's have a little bit of a look. This is a bit of a science experiment. I have to color in my my food coloring here. So I've got all these different colors that I can use. I can color that in. What did it look like? Do all of that sort of thing. Then if I didn't like that, I've got the ability to rub it out so it's not permanent there. I then have to answer the question, so I can use my typewriter feature to answer the question. I've got lots of ways that I can do that. So I can use my word prediction. I can use my voice to start typing. I can change the color of my font. I can change the size of my font. So
I was just going to say, so one of the things as I'm watching and just thinking it through, so in terms of multiple means of representation, what students, a PDF now, and we can talk at some other sessions about how we can convert inaccessible PDFs into an accessible PDF. But once it's accessible like this, not only can students actually now have the text read to them if they need to do that, or mask the screen, but they can also do a bit of active reading here. As they're reading, they can be leaving themselves notes with this too, couldn't they? Not only you're answering a question, but they could actually be just reflecting on their reading, leaving, and so it's actually just, there's so much they could do with this.
Yeah, no, look, absolutely. And I was just going to say, like, even listening back to what they've just written, like, there's so many parts to this, and they can leave that feedback. They can leave written feedback. They can leave feedback using a voice note. Over here, you can see that we've got all the different ways to leave feedback. And you as a teacher can scaffold and support them within that PDF to do that as well.
I'm going to jump in again. So what you could do as a teacher, if you were providing a PDF to a student, to your class, you could actually, using what you've just shown there, because you can actually leave a voice note. You could actually, so what you can do is you could share this PDF with your class and at the same time give them some additional support, or you might want to leave a voice note for some students to give them maybe some scaffolds about how they're going to interact with this particular PDF and what has to be done. Or you could use that for, you might want to embed maybe some additional information in the student's first language, as an example.
Yeah, absolutely. So many different ways that we can give them feedback, that they can support themselves and write their own little notes, whether they be auditory notes or written notes. There's all sorts of things that we can do. And I guess the only thing that you have to be careful of is that when you use the PDF reader, you just remember, as the teacher or the student, when you put that additional layer of information on there, that you open it back up again in the PDF reader. Because I know that some people are kind of like, oh, I can't see anything. Where's it all gone? It's all there for you. You just got to open it up with a PDF.
Yeah, and you can those annotations you've done. So say you're going to share a PDF with your class in Google Classroom or just via Google Drive. You've got it. There's a little way that you can actually then make sure that those annotations are saved onto that PDF, and then you share the PDF with the annotations with your student. So that's cool, because you could actually, it's a kind of a differentiation tool. So for some students, you may wish to add some additional annotations for them, and you can share that with those annotations on. I think it's just a tool that so many people, one, don't know they've got access to, or two, underutilize what it can actually do.
No, look, absolutely. And such a valuable one, because even once I've done all those annotations, I can print that off and I can stick it into my book if that's what I need to do, or I can hand it in as a physical piece of paper to my teacher. And we know that there are so many students who want to do things in the same way as others and look similar and those sorts of things. So it provides all different ways for them to be able to do that.
Yeah. And I know you and I, we work, what we chat about each week, we kind of almost work out, on the fly. But I'm already thinking for next week that what I might do for next week is talk about, because what we've been doing at the moment is talking about how teachers give a PDF to a student. Let's next week talk about agency, learner agency, and let's talk about how a student can create an accessible PDF or any document themselves using Read and Write, and actually convert the dreaded handout that they've got into a different way that they can represent that information for themselves, and they can control that. So that's going to involve a bit of scanning and stuff. Let's check that out next week. I think
Yeah.
it'll be cool.
Such an important part of the puzzle, isn't it?
It is. Well,
Alrighty.
that's the end. That's it. An end of another chat.
Okay.
Thank you.
Always good chatting, Greg.
Always good chatting with you too, Fiona. See you next week.